Hello, it's Lion here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing another movie review. Today we're going to be looking at Shin Godzilla, directed by Hideki Anno of Evangelion fame, and Shinji Higuchi. I don't know what he's done, but these two guys have apparently been working on a few different tokusatsu reboots after the success of Shin Godzilla. They did Shin Ultraman, which just released here in the States for 2 days. I didn't manage to go watch it, which is kind of sad because now that I've seen Shin Godzilla, I really wish I had the chance to go watch Shin Ultraman because, I think Ultraman is cool, but also because I really enjoyed this movie, and I would have liked to see more reboots by this team of people, right? And they also have one that is going to be called Shin Kamen Rider, which will debut in Japan sometime this year, so it probably won't come to the US until 2024. So, yeah, really interesting stuff here. It's starting 3 different people. Hiroki Hasegawa, who, if I remember correctly, is the main character. He's kind of this plucky, up-and-coming political figure, and he thinks that everyone is handling things really poorly, and so he kind of is kind of a maverick, well, as much of a maverick as you can be in the Japanese government, and he kind of ends up being the hero of the movie. We have Yutaka Takenuchi, who is an older character. He's not necessarily an old man. He's not like a 60-year-old guy, but he is older than Hiroki Sagegawa's character, and he is kind of the kind of more standard, like, hey, you gotta relax, you gotta not do it this way because you're just making them angry, and it's not actually gonna help you deal with the problem kind of guy, right? So he's kind of more of the voice of reason, the more kind of traditional aspect of the Japanese government here. And then we have Satomi Ishikahara, who is a female character. Honestly, I think that she's mentioned here in this list of starting characters because she's probably the most popular out of all of the female characters that show up, or all of the female actors that show up in Shin Godzilla. But her part in the story, even though important, doesn't really feel like that meaningful to me. Like, it could have just been anyone else. And there's another female character who I don't know who she's played by, so I can't tell you the name of them, but I think she's a much better character than the one portrayed here by Satomi Ishikahara. So maybe I'll talk about it in the video, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not really looking to develop this the same way that I usually do my book reviews. This is more of a kind of overall just experience kind of review. Yeah, moving on from this, I'm not sure what to classify this movie as. Like, technically it is an ecological horror movie, kind of like a natural disaster movie, like 2012 or something like that. It's also, of course, a kaiju movie. However, it's not a kaiju movie in the same way that you might think a kaiju movie is here in the US. Like, it's not Pacific Rim, it's not the American Godzilla movies, it's not like an alien invasion movie where, you just send a military team to, mow down aliens or anything like that. It's mostly a kind of political aspect, or like a political horror kind of thing. So there's a natural disaster that leads to political intervention. However, the political system is really shitty. At least that's what it looks like based on the movie. And so the horror comes from the fact that the system is so broken that the reaction to this natural disaster is so slow that it leads to more issues, and then other countries try to step in to try to relieve the problem from existing, to remove the problem from existing. But of course, the situation there is that we're just going to bomb Japan and see what happens, and it doesn't really matter to them, right? Specifically, the US is going to try to bomb Japan so that they can get rid of Godzilla, right? So it is kind of a political, ecological horror type thing. But I've seen a lot of people online say that it's actually supposed to be political satire. One of my roommates thinks this is the case as well, but me and my other roommate don't think so. I think it is just a commentary, not necessarily a satirical commentary, on the way that the Japanese system works, because it's played really, really straight. Like, even there really isn't any kind of element here that feels like it's supposed to be a joke. Maybe the wording is supposed to be a joke, but because we watched it subtitles and the subtitles, don't necessarily convey emotions that well, we missed it. But a lot of reviewers online do say that it's a political satire. However, I don't think any of those reviewers are Japanese, so I really can't tell. But to me, it just felt like it was a very clear, like, hey, our government sucks. This is a problem. And also, here's the crazy, awesome movie about Godzilla, right? And it didn't really feel like they were kind of joking about it. It felt very, very serious, right? So, I don't know. It's very different from how an American, group of people would make this type of movie. Like there really isn't a proper comparison because the Godzilla movies, the American ones, are made to be kind of similar to the Japanese ones, right? But I think we can illustrate the differences there pretty clearly. Here in the Japanese one, it's mostly focused on the government. Like people in charge at the very top, the people that are in the upper echelon of government, dealing with this situation, and we don't really end up seeing any of the lower level people deal with this, right? Like we don't see some like bottom feeder worker, like the lowest of the low in the government dealing with this. It's mostly upper echelon people. And when there's kind of this military intervention that happens eventually, it's not really like hyped up. It's not like, oh crap, the military is coming, we're going to be saved, it's all good. It's more like, crap, we have to send in the military because there's no other way to deal with this. And I thought that was really, really interesting. Overall, I did like the movie itself for like what it is, a political situation that is kind of out of control because the system doesn't work that well. And I found that to be really, really interesting. And I liked it a lot. But basically the story is this. It opens up with Godzilla basically being born, and he comes out of the ocean. People initially think it's just some, nothing thing that doesn't really matter. And there's the young character, Hiroki Hasegawa's character, is just like, yo, you guys are wrong. All of you old ass people need to figure out that this is probably a big ass issue. Can we please do something about it? And no one wants to listen to him because he's like not a senior level member. And it's like, well, what the hell? Why do you have an opinion? Don't listen. Like, we're not gonna listen to you, right? Turns out he was right. And Godzilla ends up on shore. He was a fish, and now he's kind of this like weird in between lizard. And then as he's like rampaging, he's slowly transforming into the proper Godzilla that we know. Eventually he stops, he goes back into the ocean, and then this is when the proper situation starts, where basically the government is gridlocked. They don't know how to deal with this. There is no precedent for this. And so they're all scrambling to try to figure out a way to deal with it, but also scrambling to try to not take blame if this problem, becomes even worse. And so it causes this kind of situation to occur. Eventually, the young guy that is kind of telling all these old people that they're wrong is told, okay, here, you're in charge of this team. You got to figure out what the hell to do. And, basically the point is, if it fails, he's going to be the one that takes the blame for it, and everyone else will be free of problems, right? But the problem continues to get worse. The creature, Godzilla, eventually called Gojira in the movie because apparently there's this Japanese guy that was exiled, and he moved to the U.S., and then in the U.S. he helped develop these things, and then eventually Godzilla showed up, and it's because of this guy and U.S. kind of situation. And then, it shows up. They finally call it what it's called. And then the problem gets even worse because Godzilla now has an atomic breath attack that he uses. And they try to bomb it. Doesn't work. They try to use tanks. It doesn't work. They try mortars. And they try all sorts of things. And nothing works. But once it uses atomic breath, it runs out of energy. And so it has to enter a stasis mode. And at this point, they decide, okay, what if we freeze it permanently and force it to stay in this kind of stasis mode forever? And so they develop a situation, and then they have a kind of ticking time bomb type situation, because if this plan fails, the US is going to bomb the shit out of Tokyo, where Godzilla is, if they can't figure out a way to fix it. And so it's kind of a race against the clock. And overall, it was a really, really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really fun. it was very different from how an American team would handle this, which I also think is part of the reason why I liked it. It just felt really interesting to see this kind of different take on something like this, right? So overall, it was really, really cool. I liked it a lot. I think you guys should definitely watch it. It's on Crunchyroll, so it's really easy and accessible to get into it. So yeah, that's it for Shin Godzilla. I hope you guys liked it, and thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.